Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in the Bronx, New York. Today is October 29th. It's currently 12 noon. And I wanted to take a moment to review the conversation between Kamala Harris and Shannon Sharpe. Now, we have covered several of the interviews of Kamala Harris with ABC News, MSNBC, Fox News. We've done deep dives on many of her interviews. We won't be doing that today. We're only going to be looking at the first 5 minutes of her conversation. And I think it's very revealing in those first 5 minutes, everything that we need to know. And it's amazing to me what we hear there. But let me justify and explain why I'm looking at 5 minutes and not the whole thing. To start with, let's take a look at the title. Now, this is Club Shay Shay. This is Shannon Sharpe's channel, and we do have a live transcript going at the same time. But the title of this is very interesting. But before I even do that, what we see is Shannon Sharpe has 3.6 million subscribers. This video has received, this interview has received 928,000 views. This is almost 24 hours after being published, so less than a million views. That is paltry compared to Joe Rogan, which we now have reported in the news that Kamala Harris has refused to go on to Joe Rogan's program because of conditions. She wants Joe Rogan to come to her. She wants to limit the conversation to 1 hour. Joe Rogan says, no, go to Austin like everyone else. And his program is 2 to 3 hours. So there's an impasse and she will not budge. So she has refused. Be that as it may, Kamala Harris decided that since she won't go on Joe Rogan, the most popular podcast in the world, arguably, she will instead go to Shannon Sharpe because Shannon Sharpe is popular with black men. And Kamala Harris desperately needs black men to vote for her if she's supposed to have any chance in the 2024 election. Fair enough. So she goes to Club Shay Shay and she's not getting an overwhelming response. She hasn't gotten more viewers than Shannon Sharpe gets. She hasn't gotten even the majority of Shannon Sharpe's normal viewer base. So I don't know if this has been successful. But look at the title. The title is Kamala Harris's advice to her 18-year-old self. No one cares. No one cares about what Kamala Harris was doing at 18. They're looking at who's going to be the next president of the United States. People are concerned about the top issues being the economy, being inflation, being the war, or multiple wars overseas, energy, jobs. These are the key critical issues that have been repeated in every single poll throughout the entire year. No one has asked, what was Kamala Harris like when she was 18? No one cares. And it has no bearing on how she will deal with Iran or Russia or China or domestic issues here in the United States. It has no bearing. It's meaningless. Going on, the title also talks about she wants to talk about student loans. Well, student loans are very controversial. And they are essentially a means to buy votes on the cheap, because it's redistribution of wealth and debt, taking the debt of those who decided to go to college and possibly get useless degrees and forcing other individuals who either have degrees of their own or did not go into college and have to pay that debt off. That's unfair at its core, but that's one of the things. So she's going to talk about buying student votes on the cheap. She's also talking about stimulus checks. Well, that's buying poor people's votes on the cheap. She's going to remind everyone that she's black and that she went to a black college. And when I say black, I mean African American, not genetically black, but culturally and societally black. And, of course, Orange Man bad. The student loans, again, is not a major issue in the 2024 election. It's not one of the key things that everyone is worried about and is affecting the economy of the United States. Stimulus checks, again, not a major issue. No one's been begging for stimulus checks. They want lower inflation. They want lower costs in terms of energy and housing. But no one's asking for a stimulus check. And we know that stimulus checks have not been effective. We saw that under Obama. We saw that most recently with the pandemic. They didn't work. They weren't able to do what they were promised to do. And they have increased the national debt, which makes poor people more poor. So I look at the title and I say, this isn't substantive because it's not dealing with the substance of the 2024 election. It's not dealing with the issues that are actually prominent and first and foremost for the president in 2025. You don't have to fix student loans if you can reduce inflation. That's the real preeminent issue. Inflation, the economy, jobs, the cost of energy. These are preeminent issues. The wars that are going on right now, that's a preeminent issue. Whether or not you settle Johnny having a college debt for basket weaving or lesbian dance theory does not have any impact on whether or not Israel's going to be continued to be attacked by Iran, or whether the United States is going to continue to fund the Ukraine war against Russia. It doesn't matter if Johnny went to college or not. Those issues are bigger. That's just realistic. Same thing with stimulus checks, which no one's been talking about, but now is suddenly coming up. Okay, so it's not a serious interview. But then again, Shannon Sharpe is an entertainer. He's not a news media he's not a journalist, not a political commentator. Fair enough. He's more light entertainment. He's lighthearted. This isn't serious. Fair enough. But the next 48 seconds, now we're starting at 1:05. Again, he had his intro trailer. I don't care about it. This is where we start to see the interview at about 1 minute and 8 seconds. And going forward from there, the next 48 seconds, I think, are incredibly revealing. So,
hello, welcome to another episode of Club Shay Shay. This episode is brought to you by Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the woman that's stopping by for conversation and a drink today. She's the highest ranking woman in U.S. history. She's made a career of being first. She's the first woman to serve as Attorney General, African American, Asian American descent. She's been district attorney of San Francisco. She was the nation's first Indian American senator. She's the first woman, first black Asian American to be elected vice president. She set the record for the most tie-breaking votes cast by a vice president. She's the first black woman, Asian American in U.S. history to win the presidential nomination of a major party. She's the first HBCU grad, making us proud. She's a Howard University alum. She's a member of the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Here she is in person, Madam VP, Kamala Harris. Madam VP, how you doing?
Thank you very well, Shannon.
Okay, and I'm going to stop right there. So we are now at the 2-minute mark, fully a little bit less than 1 minute into Shannon Sharpe actually talking to Kamala Harris. Now, what have you seen at this point? Well, in that little 48-second intro blurb, you heard Shannon Sharpe mention that Kamala Harris is black 4 times. He mentioned that she's the first 6 times. He mentioned that she's a woman 4 times. He mentioned that she's Asian American 3 times. Indian once. He mentioned she's vice president 3 times. So what does that mean? Well, those are very interesting things to start off with because, first of all, almost none of them are actually important or substantive. They're characteristics. Those are check boxes. And he's trying to get her aligned to individuals based on the check boxes, not the substance for the most part. And he's enforcing the authority bias. She is the first. So groundbreaking. So you have to support that. That means that that's a positive. She's the first one to do it. So you have to be in support of that. She's black. You have to accept that. He says it over and over again because there are many in the black community that do not recognize Kamala Harris as African American. They recognize her as Black and Indian American or East Indian, but not as African American socially or in terms of societal or cultural background. He emphasizes that she's a woman to get the woman vote involved. And again, black men are supposed to support black women unconditionally. Men are supposed to support women unconditionally. And women are supposed to be aligned and support Kamala Harris because, again, they're women. By the way, Shannon Sharpe is not a biologist. He does not have a degree in biology. So we can't really take his word for it, can we? Because we have just heard from Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson Brown that you need to be a biologist to actually determine whether someone is male or female. She said so herself. Shannon Sharpe, he doesn't have better credentials than the Supreme Court Justice now, does he? But going on from there, they mentioned that she's Asian American, again, targeting another minority group for the same reasons that they're targeting African Americans, mixing them together to get her support. I find that very interesting because in 48 seconds, he didn't mention things that were really substantive, that she went to Howard University. No one cares. No one cares where she went to school. She's been out of school for some 30, 40 years. What we care about is what has she done after that. Now, he did mention she was AG and DA. That's fantastic, except not really important to the nation. That's maybe important to California. And if she were running for Senate again, that would be of significance. On a national level, people would be concerned about the fact that she was a senator, and they would be concerned about her run in 2019 for the presidency, which failed, and in 2020 that she was appointed, not that she was elected. No Democrat has ever voted for Kamala Harris in a primary, and she's never won a primary because they don't support her. But that's besides the point. So in that 48 seconds, I found that to be very telling about this entire interview. No one, even those who are friendly, looking at CNN and MSNBC and ABC, looking at even Anderson Cooper, looking at the most friendly interviews that have been done for Kamala Harris, no one front loads their bias, their favoritism, and this emphasis on color and gender and authority as much as what we're seeing with Shannon Sharpe. But then again, he is not an authoritative interviewer. He's an entertainer. So he's not very good at this. But it is very telling about what we're going to hear next. Also, at the very end of that, we heard her say hello. And if you listen carefully to the way she said hello, she put in a bit of an accent. She put in a bit of a dialect into that answer, which we will hear throughout the next 5 minutes and throughout the entire interview, which I think is very telling because she's putting on an affection. She's affecting an accent, a dialect, to be more appealing to Shannon Sharpe's targeted audience, black men, rather than the way she speaks, like when she speaks in CNN. And I will show you exactly what I mean in just a moment. But let's go forward from there. So that's the first 48 seconds, and it's been pretty abysmal. Does it get better?
It is an extreme honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have you on Club Shay Shay. CJ, who's the producer here, when we started this journey, Madam VP, 4 years ago, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, influencers.
Yeah.
VP.
Notice he didn't say politicians. He never said politicians. He was never intending, nor did he believe, that he would be able to get a politician, especially a politician at the presidential level on this program, because he's an entertainer, because he's not political. He doesn't do political commentary. He's not a member of the news media. He's a joke. He's light and fluff. So we shouldn't be taking him seriously. He's admitting he does light fluff. Nothing serious, nothing substantive. Well, let's go on.
P's and presidential hopefuls were on the bingo card. You here, so I want to thank you very much.
I thank you.
When we have guests come on, Madam VP, we like to toast. And what I read on this card, you don't deserve this. You earned this.
Now I have to stop. Now we're in about a minute and a half into his actual interview, and I have to stop right there. He said, you don't deserve the presidential nomination. You earned the presidential nomination. No, she didn't. He's wrong. He's lying to the public. He, again, is inserting an authority bias. He is trying to use an emotional plea to the audience to make them think that they must vote for her because she earned their vote already, that she's already done the hard work and they should reward her with a vote. Except that's not true. I'm not saying that Shannon Sharpe doesn't think that's true in his mind, but any critical analysis, any objective analysis says, no, she didn't. In 2019, when Kamala Harris ran for the presidency of 2020, she failed. She went bankrupt. Her campaign went bankrupt. Everyone left her campaign, and Democrats did not vote for her. She had about 5% of Democrats that were supporting her throughout the entire process. She was out before the Iowa polls. No one ever voted for her in a primary. So she didn't earn it. She failed. And then she became VP, reversing her position on Joe Biden, who she had previously attacked based on racial issues. And then she said, well, that's all okay. The very issues that she demanded prevent Joe Biden from being president, she said as VP, it's all right. She's fine with it. Let's move on. In 2020, no Democrat voted for Kamala Harris. They might have voted for Marianne Williamson. Many of them have moved on with RFK Jr. as he first as a Democrat and then as an independent and have supported him. And they also voted for Joe Biden en masse. That did happen. Whether that was rigged, whether that was Democratic, that's an entirely different question. But Kamala Harris wasn't on the ballot, not in any single state. After the Democratic Party, we're talking about Obama, we're talking about Nancy Pelosi, we're talking about Chuck Schumer and many others who publicly leaked information saying that Joe Biden had to get out of the race or they would embarrass him and his history. That's what they said. We saw the leaks throughout the entire summer of 2024. And they said this because Joe Biden was revealed to be a part-time zombie president. You may not like that. I know there are many on the left who are upset hearing that. It is the truth. Joe Biden works, as has been confirmed by all international and national credible news media agencies on the left, on the right, on the center. They have confirmed he works from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. 5 days a week. That is part-time, and that is a zombie. We've heard Joe Biden mumble his way through not just press conferences, but also the debate. It was revealed to America. And because of that embarrassment and the fact that Joe Biden had no hope in hell of winning in 2024, and therefore Democrats would not just lose the presidential race, they were going to lose the congressional and the Senate races in addition to that, because Democrats had no motivation to go out and vote. They kicked Joe Biden out, and then they searched for his replacement. The replacement happened to be Kamala Harris because according to the funding regulations, based on the ticket of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the way that the fundraising had been done, she was the only Democrat that had access to the $300 million that had been raised up to that point. If they did not pick Kamala Harris for president, they would have had to refund all $300 million back to every single donor, then have to start campaigning and raising money for their new candidate, whomever that might have been. It doesn't matter if it was Gretchen Whitmer or Gavin Newsom or Pritzker out of Illinois. It doesn't matter who you would have preferred. They would have had to start from $0 and build up. And they didn't have enough time. There just wasn't enough time. There was less than 90 days until the election. They had to rush this forward. So they needed the $300 million. So they picked Kamala Harris, someone who in April, Democrats, the very same Democrats that kicked out Joe Biden, the very same Democrats that were potentially candidates for the presidency in 2024, all had wanted to remove Kamala Harris because she had failed so dramatically as vice president, being the lowest rated vice president at one point in the modern history of American politics. So they picked her. That's not earning it. They anointed her before the DNC meeting, the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Before the delegates came together, there was an online vote, and she had already been picked by the elites, Obama and Pelosi and Schumer. They picked Kamala Harris because of the money. Then they had an online vote before any of the delegates were able to meet and to voice their opinions about who they chose and who they would have supported. And then it was just a confirmation. It was literally an anointment and a confirmation. It was a ceremony. It had nothing to do with democracy. The very thing that Democrats love to say that they support, a democracy, this wasn't it. She didn't earn a single vote. She didn't earn any of the $300 million of donations that had come in to that point. And she didn't earn the delegates in Chicago, Democratic delegates. But then came the full court press of the news media and Democrats saying, well, she's now it, and it's vote blue no matter who, so support Kamala Harris. And she's a woman of color, so you have to support her because of identity politics. So when Shannon Sharpe says, you don't deserve this, I agree. When he says, you earned this, no, she hasn't. She has not. She has not been successful as vice president. And there is a long laundry list, which we have covered over many, many months and years of her failures domestically in terms of the open border, internationally, talking to South Korea on behalf of the United States, and everything else in between. She has failed. She has no accomplishments to point to, neither on her own nor for the Biden-Harris administration. Shannon Sharpe is lying to you. But he's lying to give her authority, to give her the benefit of doubt, to make you, the viewer, think that you must support her, that something must have happened that you don't know about. And Shannon Sharpe, well, he's an authority, isn't he? He's got 3 million people viewing him. He's a former entertainer. He's even gotten the vice president to talk to him. He must be an authority, right? He must be correct, right? And therefore, you should follow his lead. Except he's lying to you. He is flat out lying to you. Being black doesn't earn anything. Being a woman doesn't earn anything. Those are check boxes. Those are characteristics. That doesn't mean you're good or bad, that you're inherently smarter or dumber. It means nothing. That's just who you are. It has nothing to do with what you do and how well you do it. Kamala Harris hasn't earned anything. Yes, she was DA, and no one has said that Kamala Harris isn't qualified to be president. I want to be very clear about that. She is qualified. Like millions of other Americans, she is qualified to be president. Is she the best person? Many would say no. I would say absolutely not. Does she present a compelling reason to vote for her? No, she does not. And again, she didn't make her case to the public or even to Democrats to get to this spot. She was appointed. She was anointed. She didn't earn anything. He is lying to you. Let's go on.
Being the first in so many areas.
Yes, she was the first in many areas. That's not a reason to vote for her. Just because she's the first woman VP that is black does not mean she's qualified to be president or the best choice for president. That's not a reasoning. Maybe that's a justification. That is an excuse. That is a bias that happens to be racist and sexist, but it isn't a reason for her to be president. Let's go on.
And you make us proud. I just want you.
Who does she make proud? She may make Shannon Sharpe proud. She may make some of her supporters proud. But to say that she makes the American people proud, that's not true. Kamala Harris has spent almost every single day as vice president with disapproval well over 50%. Kamala Harris has embarrassed the United States on multiple trips overseas. Kamala Harris has failed to protect the southern border, which was her number one job given to her on March 24th of 2021. I'm sorry, I'm not proud of Kamala Harris. She's not someone I want to emulate, nor would I want anyone I know to emulate her. Not the way that she got into politics, which is sordid and is well documented and as very well known that she didn't get into politics because she was good at doing politics or doing her job. It was somewhat less, how do I say it? It was more sexual. And that's how she got into politics. So no, I don't think young women should emulate her thinking that they can use their bodies to attain positions that they can't, their talent and their capabilities do not justify. No, I'm not proud of Kamala Harris, and I don't have a reason why I should be, other than someone saying, but she's black, but she's a woman. Those aren't reasons.
You to know you make us proud for what you've been able to accomplish.
What has she accomplished? What are the accomplishments of Kamala Harris? She jailed black men that were innocent. She kept them in jail longer than they should have been. That's her accomplishments. She has left it wide open. 8 million illegal aliens have entered into the United States under her watch, under her direct supervision. And she plans to allow even more illegal aliens, at least 1.8 million a year, to enter the United States. And she wants to reward them for their illegal activity by giving them citizenship. I'm sorry, those aren't accomplishments.
And we're 12 days away, and we hope you have an even greater accomplishment.
No, I do not. Well, let me be fair. I don't mind if Kamala Harris has accomplishments in her life. If she earns the accomplishments going into the future, fantastic, great for her. But I do not want to see her as president. That is my personal view. You may disagree. I do not want to see her achieve some of the goals that she has presented to the American people, like defunding the police, which she has never denounced. I do not want to see her fund gender-affirming care on children who are under the age of 18. I do not want to see her have success in that. There are many issues I do not want to see Kamala Harris successful in because I do not agree with them fundamentally. And the majority of Americans and the majority of Democrats do not or have not historically agreed with her, and therefore she should fail. And she is failing. But let's go on.
So here's to continued success in everything you've done and everything that you will do.
She can't have continued success in something that she hasn't had success in. I mean, okay, let's go on.
Oh, bless you, and thank you. And to you, Shannon, to you for all the success and the voice you give to so many issues. Thank you for that.
Thank you very
And
much.
cheers to you.
Cheers.
And
What was
I'm
that?
not going to actually drink this because I might fall asleep.
You know, in many cultures, it's considered to be insulting that if you are given a toast, that you should at least allow the alcohol to touch your lips to at least acknowledge the toast that has been made. You don't have to drink the alcohol. You don't have to imbibe it or just swallow it. You have to at least allow it to touch your lips to acknowledge the toast that has been made. There's many cultures that believe that. And so when Kamala Harris doesn't do that, it is considered in many cultures to be an insult because she doesn't even profane to acknowledge the toast that has been made.
And I need to do this
I don't want you to
with
fall
Barack
asleep.
Obama this afternoon.
We don't want you to fall
So
asleep.
here we are. Cheers to everybody.
And we know that she can drink more than one sip of an alcoholic drink without falling asleep. Again, her exaggerations have no bounds. She takes one sip of an alcoholic drink and she expects us to believe that she's going to fall over drunk. Well, we know she was out drinking with Gretchen Whitmer just this weekend, and she didn't fall over and fall asleep in front of everyone there. She wasn't suddenly, she's not an alcoholic where she pounds drink after drink after drink publicly, and she didn't suddenly lose her mind. So, no, that's not realistic. She could have allowed that to touch her lips. It was understandable, but fair. Fine, we're going to move forward, but her excuse makes no sense when you think about it. When you look in context of what she has done recently and what she is doing in front of us, it makes no sense.
So before we get into the things that you want to do once you become president of the United States,
That's something she has yet to answer. She's been asked on CNN. She's been asked on town halls. She's been multiple interviews. Even Stephen Colbert have all asked her, what are you going to do? What is going to separate you from the Biden administration? And she has never had an answer for that. So I don't know what Shannon Sharpe thinks is the many things she's planning to do that she wants to do, because she hasn't told the American people what she wants to do. And they've been asking her this since the day that she was anointed. But let's go on.
I want to go back. When you found out when President Biden called you and said that he was no longer going to seek re-election, and you got that call, do you remember where you were and what you thought when you heard him say these words to you?
Now I'm going to stop right there. So Shannon Sharpe is making great effort so far to give an authority bias to Kamala Harris. He's been trying to make her friendly and make this social and make her appealing on an emotional level. He has imagined that she has had successes that no one has ever seen, no one has ever heard about, no one has documented. He's trying to give her a big boost. And capping off that big boost, he is now trying to get an emotional connection to Kamala Harris, saying, what happened? Tell us about the emotion, the thrill of being selected with Joe Biden. This is the exact same question that was asked by CNN. And here's the difference. When CNN, which only had 16 minutes to talk with Kamala Harris, when they had to ask this question, it was one of the last things that was asked of Kamala Harris as she sat there with Tim Walz to protect her from the interviewer. But it was the same exact question. And this is the first question that Shannon Sharpe is asking. Something that has been asked and answered and is not consequential. Let me go back and say this again. There is absolutely no poll in America that is asking, that believes and says that it's important to know what was Kamala Harris doing when she got the call by Joe Biden saying, I'm forced out, they want you. No one cares. That doesn't change anything on international or domestic policy. It doesn't affect inflation, the economy, energy, jobs. It doesn't affect safety, crime. It has no impact on any issue that anyone voting is voting on. Not one. Why are we doing this? To make it an emotional appeal. To try and make her seem like your friend. To make her connect with you on an emotional level, since there isn't a substantive one. That's why Shannon Sharpe is doing this. And again, he's copying what a journalist has already done. This is a question that has been asked and answered already. The problem is, when it was asked the first time, Kamala Harris was embarrassed because she was answering the question with Tim Walz sitting next to her, trying to deflect any of the questions she couldn't answer and to make her look better. But here it is, and I want you to hear this. I'm going to play it in full so we can see this.
staying on President Biden. When he called you and said he was pulling out of the race, what was that like? And did he offer to endorse you right away, or did you ask for it?
So notice the question is, what was that like when Joe Biden called Kamala Harris? Okay, same exact question that was asked by Shannon Sharpe. The thing that's different is, did you ask for the endorsement? Was this your idea, or was this Joe Biden's idea to endorse Kamala Harris? So they looked at the politics of it and how this politically played out. This is something that Shannon Sharpe didn't ask, CNN did. Let's go on.
It was a Sunday, so here I'll give you a little too much information.
Go for it. There's no such.
So here she is. She's laughing. Ha ha ha. This is kind of funny. Oh, I'm just like you. This is so cute. You're gonna laugh. It's so funny. No, it's not.
Thing, Madam Vice President.
My family was staying with us, and including my baby nieces. And we had just had pancakes and, Auntie, can I have more bacon? Yes, I'll make you more bacon. And then we were sitting down to do a puzzle. And the phone rang, and it was Joe Biden. And he told me what he had decided to do. And I asked him, "Are you sure?" And he said yes. And that's how I learned about it.
So that was a 46-second answer. Real simple. She was sitting with her family. They were having breakfast, and she got the phone call. Oh, excuse me. They were having breakfast, and then they decided to put together a puzzle, and then she got the phone call. 46 seconds, straightforward, no big deal, because it's not important. It doesn't matter. No matter how she got the phone call, no matter what her family were doing, whether or not that was true or not, does not matter. Changes nothing about the election or any of the reasons why anyone should vote for her. 46 seconds. Okay. So that exact same question has been asked by Shannon Sharpe. This is 3:25 in his video. Let's see how long it takes Kamala Harris to answer the exact same question. And let's see the nature of how she answers the question.
I do. So I was home. It was a Sunday afternoon. And my niece, her husband, and their 2 young daughters were visiting and staying with us. And I promised the kids I'd have pancakes and bacon and everything.
Okay.
Notice this time she isn't saying this is too much information. When she's talking to CNN, when she's having the conversation with the media, when she's being interviewed with them, oh, it's too much information. She's talking to Shannon Sharpe, which means, again, she's talking to the public. She's talking to black men this time, and it's no longer too much information. It is essential information at this point. Okay, and I think and I say it's essential because she emphasizes that it's pancakes and bacon. Do we need to know that? Did anyone ever ask, what did you have? No. But she's pointing out, oh, it's pancakes because everyone has pancakes. You have pancakes. That's normal, right? And we have bacon because everyone likes bacon, right? You like bacon, don't you? This is a way to try and get her to connect emotionally with you, the viewer, to make her seem like she's just like you. You do the same things that I do. Because realistically, most people in that situation would say, we were having breakfast, or we just finished breakfast, because it's not important. It's not essential to the conversation. Unless someone is trying to make more of it to get an emotional response from the viewer. But let's go on.
And then after that, I had a puzzle for the kids, and we were sitting down to do the puzzle.
Okay.
Okay. So far, this is almost word for word what we heard from CNN. It's taken her about 21 seconds so far to answer the question. 21 seconds.
And the phone rang.
Okay.
And it was President Biden. And so that's when he told me. And it was obviously life-changing in so many ways.
Well, wait a minute. We now have gone into something completely different. She didn't say that with CNN. She never said, she didn't say this part in CNN. Why is it different? Why is the answer different now than when she was talking to CNN? They're both doing interviews. This is both people trying to find out about her personally for the benefit of the public and to the voter. Why wouldn't she share this information with CNN, but she is with Shannon Sharpe? Unless she's trying to target a different voter base, and she needs to connect with that voter base because they've essentially abandoned her. Oh, okay, that makes it a little bit different. Let's see what else she has to say.
But, I have to tell you, Shannon, I at that moment, I knew what it would mean, but not in the detail of it, but I certainly understood the seriousness and the gravity of the moment.
I don't understand what that means. I didn't know at that moment what it meant, but I knew what it meant. I understood the seriousness and the gravity, but I didn't know what it meant. How can you know the seriousness and the gravity if you don't know what it meant? That doesn't make sense. That's illogical. You're saying you were overwhelmed? That makes sense. I can say, if you said I was overwhelmed and I didn't know how enormous that was, that's one thing to say, and I would say, okay, I understand that completely. But to say, I understood it, but I didn't understand it, I don't know what you're talking about. But going on.
Mm-hmm. And actually, one of the first people I called was my pastor.
Wow. Oh, then why didn't you mention that to CNN? Why didn't you tell CNN? And I called my pastor. It was the first thing that I did. I reached out to my pastor. Matter of fact, just to make sure. Again, I have it right here. Let's hear what was the follow-up.
And what about the endorsement? Did you ask for it?
And he was very clear that he was going to support me.
So when he called...
Okay, so she went right past it. Pastor? What pastor? That's not important. No one cared. Oh, it was the endorsement. Yeah, he said he was going to endorse me. It was clear. It was clear. He didn't have a choice. The choice was already made for him. Barack Obama, Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. But that being that as it is, Shannon Sharpe and her, they're talking, and now she's saying it's about her pastor. She called her pastor. Oh, so you didn't talk to your husband? You didn't talk to your family that were sitting right there in front of you? You didn't have that conversation? No, the first people I called, you didn't reach out to your mom, your brothers and sisters, your close family and friends. You reached out to your pastor. Okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I'm finding it interesting that you're emphasizing this because you didn't mention it with CNN and you are mentioning with Shannon Sharpe. That is an emphasis. You think this is important for people to know. This is something she believes black men need to know and want to know about her. That black women want to know this about her, that she's religious. That they have a religious connection as well as a mere checkbox characteristics of being black, having black skin, and her being a woman. This is what she's trying to do. Let's go on and hear what else she has to say about this.
I knew I needed a moment to just be still and for my spirit and my mind to have clarity.
She didn't say this on CNN. She didn't say that she was unclear, that she didn't have clarity, that her spirit and her mind were not together on this. Why didn't she say that on CNN? Why didn't she tell the rest of the American people who also have pastors, who also would have a religious connection to her if she were to share this with them? It wasn't because CNN cut her off. They listened. You saw the reporter. They were listening to her. They didn't try and stop her, cut her off. No. She decided that wasn't an essential information. But now it is when she needs the black vote. And she thinks that this is going to help connect her to the black voter. I don't know that it does. And I can't say that it doesn't sound like she's weak. To me, it sounds like, she's weak. That she wasn't able to take on this new information without having some kind of tribulation in her mind. But let's go on.
About the seriousness of the moment and my role. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget.
Right.
She'll never forget it. Well, we won't forget it either because it was historic. Absolutely. There had never been a time when we've seen a president kicked out by his party and someone else was forced into that position without a single vote from the underlying American people. So it is historic. No one should forget about it. It should also never be duplicated. That's my opinion. So I found this to be enlightening, somewhat useless. This is ridiculous. I'm listening to this and we're 4 minutes and 36 seconds in, minus the minute for the intro trailer. And so we've only gone 3 minutes and 36 seconds into the interview, and it doesn't make sense. We're conflicting with things that she has already said in the past to a degree. We're getting information that's not substantive. This isn't a substantive question. It doesn't benefit anyone, but it is a lot of manipulation that is occurring, both in terms of emotional manipulation, religious manipulation, racial manipulation that is ongoing by Shannon Sharpe. And I can see why this interview didn't do well. Having less than 1 million views in the first 24 hours for a presidential candidate 7 days before the election, and by the way, this was pre-taped because you heard Shannon Sharpe say it was 12 days until the election. It's 1 week. The election is next week.
That call or that moment or that day.
Your life instantaneously changed in that moment.
Yes, it did.
Because now all of a sudden you weren't going to be running, you weren't going to be the VP anymore. You were going to be front and center. And
Right.
you knew what the undertaking, having been 4 years as the vice president, what that moment would mean.
So this is Shannon Sharpe filling in details for Kamala Harris. He's giving motivation for Kamala Harris. Notice how he's saying things she didn't say. He's giving her a background she didn't offer. He's giving her challenges that she has to overcome and that she's risen against. She didn't say any of that. Why is Shannon Sharpe telling Kamala Harris about Kamala Harris's life? Other than he's trying to help her out. He's trying to lift her up because her answer doesn't work on its own.
I had a sense of it, like so many of us, when you this is your life, right? So,
But he doesn't know. He's never run. Shannon Sharpe has no idea what it is to get a phone call and say, hey, you're going to be president. You're going to run for the presidency of the United States. He has no idea. He's not a politician. No, he doesn't know, nor does. And the statement, you know, is like what she said with Bret Baier. Well, you know what I'm talking about. You being the public. She's not referring to Shannon Sharpe when she says, well, you know this is your life. You know this. You go through this. It's meant to connect to you, the audience, not to Shannon Sharpe. She's not talking to him. She knows he has nothing to do with politics, that he has no influence in politics. No. She's trying to connect to you. See, I'm just like you. You're just like me. We're the same. Again, this is an emotional manipulation, and this is coming from someone who has been through multiple elections and has done many, many campaigns over the years. She's very good at this. Not as a public speaker, but at taking advantage of the emotional state of the voter that she's trying to attract. She knows what she's doing. She's been doing this for decades. So this isn't new to her.
So there are those moments where your instinct kicks in, sometimes before your conscious mind and thoughts do.
Right.
Why would your instincts kick in? You've just been told you're going to be president. Okay. And you said your conscious mind, well, your spirit, you weren't able to handle it. And this, to me, is a problem. This is a weakness. And a weakness that is problematic because she couldn't handle it. She was overwhelmed. Her mind and spirit were separated. They couldn't handle the information she received. And now she's saying that her instincts were kicking in before her conscious mind were kicking in. All she was told is, you're the Democratic nominee. What happens if she were to be elected? If she can't handle being told, you're the nominee, what is she going to do when Hamas kills American hostages? What is she going to do when the Ukraine is begging for money to fight Putin? What is she going to do as China is getting into more and more conflict with the Philippines or with Taiwan or Japan or South Korea? If this is overwhelming her to the point that she needs to reach out to a pastor, that she has to rely on her instincts rather than her conscious mind and thoughts, what is she going to do when she has to deal with overwhelming issues that are a regular occurrence as president of the biggest, strongest, best nation in the world? That's not encouraging when you stop to actually pay attention to what she is saying. It is troubling.
And my instinct kicked in immediately that I need to focus and I need to do certain things immediately, which include.
So she needs to focus. So what we have been seeing from Kamala Harris, the fact that she started to focus and she immediately reached out to her staff to move this process forward, to take that nomination in her hand and make it solid, and to move forward to get the American people to support her, which is why it took 45 days for her website to ever mention any position that she stood on. It's why it took more than 60 days before she would do an interview with anybody, because she was focused. She was so laser focused, she didn't give the American people any information. She delayed as long as possible, providing as little factual, documented information as is humanly possible to run for the presidency. That's her focus. That's what she was able to determine between her and her staff. That says a lot.
Included making, I think we estimated I made over 100 calls that day. My team, and I have an incredible team, all came in, and nobody expected, right?
Were those 100 calls to all of her team members? This is important. Did she call 100 of her team members to bring them together, to tell them, okay, I'm now the nominee, we need a website, don't put anything on it. Just ask for money, which we documented for 45 days, actually 47 days. We documented that she had nothing on that page. She didn't offer any of her policies. She just asked for money. She said, I'm Kamala Harris and give me money. That was the page for 47 days. Then she added Tim Walz as her VP, and she again updated the page to say, I'm Kamala Harris, he's Tim Walz, give us money, give us your vote. That's all she said. So I don't think that was very effective. Her focus seems to be flawed. Her team seems to be ineffective.
It was a Sunday afternoon.
Correct.
In fact, we actually joked who had taken a shower that day.
Oh, that's so funny. Who took a shower? Ha ha. Isn't that funny? No, that's not funny. I don't see the humor in it. It says something when you think about it, the little things, these little statements that when you really think about how that affects someone's psychology, that she's willing to not look at the emergency for what it is, and she's making it into a joke. That doesn't instill confidence.
Because, people came in their workout clothes,
Right.
Different people and, a bandana around their head, just, and came in, and we then, for hours and hours, well into the night.
Did you tell them? Did you tell them why you had summoned them to come to your place? Did you give them that news, or were you waiting for them to get there to share that news with them?
Well, so the news.
Who cares? Did you tell your team, or did you wait for them to show up? No one cares. No one cares. It's not an important question. This is why CNN didn't ask, what did your staff say? They're getting paid. They're like, great, I get to get paid more. I might have a more secure job. If Kamala becomes the president, then I'd have a front row seat. I'd be in that new administration. I'll make as much money or more money because she got promoted. They don't care. This is politics. This is their job. But, oh, wow, we've got to know about that. No, Shannon Sharpe, we don't care about that. Again, Shannon Sharpe, I understand. Not a journalist, not involved in news, not involved in politics. He is really irrelevant and unimportant in this entire process. They're using him to get to black people, but nobody who's actually paying attention to the election cares about this. It isn't substantive. You're wasting our time. But we've got a few more moments here until we hit the 5-minute mark. So, and at this point, I'm done with the interview because they've made it very clear. This isn't about substance. There is no substance in this conversation. We're talking about things that are meaningless with a week to go before the presidency. You're supposed to be convincing me, especially they're targeting me and some of you, specifically black men. They're trying to target us to say, you've got to vote for Kamala Harris. Why? So far, the only answers they have been able to provide us is she's black, she's a woman, she's of Asian and or Indian descent. She's the first one. Okay, these aren't reasons. These aren't solutions to jobs, the economy, inflation, to securing the world or reducing crime in America or closing the border or dealing with the illegal aliens in America. None of that is an answer to the preeminent questions that people have been asking throughout the 2024 presidential election cycle. This is meaningless to me. They've wasted my time talking to me about how she's so great, and yet there is no evidence of what she has done that is great. We've wasted time telling us about how she got a phone call. I don't care. Doesn't change anything. And now we're talking about her staff, who I don't know and I don't care about. Not because I don't care about they're human beings. Fantastic. I understand that. I don't know any of them. Whether they're working for her or have been fired, whether they're the best or the worst in the industry, I don't know and I don't care because that doesn't change American policy, internationally or domestic. This is all meaningless. This is fluff meant to distract, to take away time, and to artificially try and make a connection between you and Kamala Harris. And by the way, if you haven't noticed by now, she's changed the way she's speaking. Her intonation, her accent, her dialect is different. She's speaking to Shannon very differently than the way she was speaking to CNN or any other interview. And this is, she's putting on the black. That's what's happening. And you'll hear it more as the interview, if you listen to more of the interview, see some of the other clips, you'll see it more. But throughout this whole thing, she's been turning it on more. This isn't genuine. This isn't real. But let's hear the last bits here.
News started to, as you can imagine, pretty much immediately. And, but of the many blessings that I have and have had, one of them is an incredible team of people around me. You know what that's like, where they're just there and they will rise to a moment. And no matter how high that moment is, or meaning how serious it is. And what I love, and it's certainly my own work ethic, that there is no job too small or too big if there's something that needs to get done.
She wasted a lot of time to say, my team is great. They showed up at the last minute. They're phenomenal. They can do any job. Done. It's a one-sentence answer. Seriously. They're a great team. They rose to the occasion. Done. That's what she's wasting time and words and trying to make it sound so grand, so important, so earth-shattering, and it's not. You called up your team, situations changed, we got a bigger plan. Let's go. That's it. And by the way, that's what they're paid to do. That's why you hired them, we would think. That's why you hired them, because they are capable of doing that. So this isn't important. Again, we're wasting the public's time. You're trying to make simple things sound like they're so awe-inspiring and so important when they aren't. You're wasting our time talking about things that aren't substantive, that have no impact on the American citizen, although you're trying to make it seem like that. You're wasting our time trying to give us an emotional connection to someone that we have been watching for the last 3.5 years who hasn't cared. I've just spent something like an hour with you guys going over the first 5 minutes of the Shannon Sharpe interview, because it is ridiculous. I'm not watching the rest of it. And I follow politics. I mean, this is part of my... Normally, I have to listen to these things all the way through, but there's nothing of substance here. This isn't important. From the title, this isn't about anything of substance. Listening to how he starts this, listening to the first questions and the follow-up that he's going into, this isn't substantive. This is entertainment. A waste of time. And you know what? If I want to be entertained, I play video games and I entertain myself. I go and watch old sci-fi movies and I'm entertained. Listening to Kamala Harris cackle and put on a black accent, that's not entertainment for me. Not when I'm very concerned about the election and the policies of the next president of the United States. But maybe it worked for you. Maybe you looked at this and said, you know what? She's black. She's a woman. I have to vote for her. I vote blue no matter who. Maybe that's how you feel. I don't think this was a good interview. And I understand why her team is now begging her to try and find a way to get onto Joe Rogan, and why she's trying to blame it on Joe Rogan because she can't handle a serious interview. She just can't. We've seen it over and over again. She can't handle a serious interview from CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS. Every time she's interviewed, she screws up. The more she talks to the American people, the less votes she gets. So I understand why she doesn't want to do Rogan. I thank you for taking your time to be here with me today. Again, this is Michael Voss. No matter who you vote for, please have a reason for your vote and make sure that reason isn't a characteristic. I thank you. I'll talk to you again very soon.
No Soundbites Allowed is a podcast hosted by Michael Voss. The podcast focuses on providing in-depth discussions on various political and social issues. As the title suggests, the aim is to go beyond quick sound bites and explore topics in greater detail. Michael Voss, the host, engages with guests to analyze and discuss current events, policies, and political ideologies. The live stream and videos cover a wide range of subjects, including politics, economics, social issues, and more. By delving into longer, more comprehensive conversations, No Soundbites Allowed aims to provide listeners with a deeper understanding of the complexities surrounding contemporary issues. AI is listening. Shouldn't you know what AI knows? Aren't you tired of being treated like a child by major media parrots and want to be respected as an adult? There is nothing to lose and a lot to potentially gain, so check out No Soundbites Allowed on all major social media platforms.